Hey listeners, I'm Karen Riley Jeffers, NCSM's Eastern 2 Director. Welcome to our series, Learning with Leaders, Everyone Belongs in Mathematics. Thank you for joining me and my co-host Abel Maestas, the host of Teaching That Counts, as we talk with both leaders and influencers about their math journeys and contributions. Today, we will hear from our special guests about their inspiration, perceptions, and insights regarding instructional decisions that make the mathematics space welcoming and engaging to all. Listen and learn about how beliefs, practices, and policies must continue to advance to ensure that each and every person feels a sense of belonging in mathematics.
Welcome, everybody, to this month's NCSM Learning with Leaders podcast. As always, I am Abel Maestas, and I am joined by, of course, the wonderful co-host,
Karen Riley Jeffers.
And we are so happy to have you here with us this month as we welcome our great guests. I've been trying to get this guest on our podcast for a little while here, so I'm so happy to introduce Dr. Raj Shah. And Dr. Raj Shah is on a mission to make math irresistible for kids. After earning a PhD in physics, he worked at Intel before founding Math Plus Academy, an after-school math enrichment program in 2008. Founding member of the Global Math Project, which has brought joyful math to over 7 million students worldwide. Dr. Shah is an internationally recognized speaker, TEDx presenter, which I saw, which was pretty cool, and frequent presenter at math education conferences. He also consults with schools across the U.S., inspiring educators to help kids develop number sense and a love of problem solving. Welcome to the podcast, Dr. Raj Shah.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Welcome. Thank you again for being with us today. Before we begin, even though Abel just introduced you, if you can share some of your journey in education that has led you to your current work for our listeners.
Yeah, sure. I'll go all the way back. I feel like I was born a teacher, I think. I can remember sitting in seventh grade math, like I don't know what we called it back then. Maybe it was just called seventh grade math. It was like pre-algebra stuff. And I remember the teacher going up to the board, kind of traditional. We're sitting in rows and he's demonstrating something. And I remember thinking to myself, I want to remember what it feels like not to know this so I can teach it to somebody. Which I think is, that's wild. I was probably 12 years old. So I've always, of course, loved math, and I've always loved being able to share it with people and walk them through things. So to that end, in 2008, I started a company called Math Plus Academy, after school enrichment program. If anyone in the audience is familiar with like the Kumans or the Russian schools of math or something like that, it would be in that space. I like to think that we were a lot more fun than some of the other ones, but that's kind of how I started, like just getting more and more experience working with kids and teaching math. Before that, I had taught classes in grad school and stuff. And then I got the beauty of that though was I got to like try a lot of crazy things. You can see what the latest trends are. You can see what's in the research. You can try those things. And if they don't work, I may lose customers, but I won't get in trouble with the principal. And so I was able to explore and develop and kind of play around with things and figure out what works and what doesn't. So that's a bit of the background. And then about 10 years ago, I stumbled into just making YouTube videos and going to conferences, and now I get to go into schools and work with teachers, which is really fun.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that. I'm really excited to hear about some of those things that you've worked on with kids as we get through our conversation.
Mm-hmm.
As you know, our season series is titled Everyone Belongs in Mathematics. So our leading question for all of our guests is, what does it mean to belong in mathematics?
Oh man, I just absolutely adore this theme of belonging, because for whatever reason in our culture, most people live in this world where only some people belong in math, right? You have the math gene, you don't have the math gene. You're a math person, you're not a math person. Such a weird black and white distinction that we've made that doesn't serve our students at all. You see it in the media, you see it everywhere. So I love this idea of belonging. I mean, of course, everyone belongs. The question to me is like, how do we create situations where they actually feel like they belong, especially when so many of the ways in which K-12 math is constructed, the ways in which they see math portrayed in the world, the ways in which they see who can and can't do math in the world, or who we, popularize the media and all the other things. Like, that's the most interesting question to me, is how do we do that? And I guess I'll start to answer it. I think it really comes down to, for me, like fundamental human needs. And every human being wants to be seen and wants to be valued. So I really feel like I have to come from a place of constructing the culture, the lessons, the activities, whatever it is, around this idea of, am I giving space? Am I making enough space to be able to see the value of every single child? And the more I hold on to control and teach the way that most of us slightly older people, learned math, which is, again, like I said, like sitting, watching someone do a demonstration at the front, mostly sitting in rows, mostly doing things by yourself, notes, copying, whatever. That just doesn't give the teacher any visibility in what kids can and can't do and where their value is. So for me, it's like turning that upside down. And we're starting to see that, right? We're starting to see like what there are probably a million reasons why building thinking classrooms, for example, Peter Liljedahl's work, has taken off, right? It's caught up so much momentum. But a lot of it, I think, is in when you have students working throughout the room, you can actually see what's going on. You can actually see what they're thinking about, even if it isn't right. Like, who cares? But you can see it, and then you can react to it. And I like to choose the lens of, what is the value in what every child is doing? To me, that's where belonging comes from. And I'm on a bit of a monologue here, but I think the second piece of this is, because math has right and wrong answers, and because we collect data almost exclusively on your ability to produce right and wrong answers, a student's ability to produce right and wrong answers, we tend to take the lens, almost by default, as educators, administrators in math, of what can't they do? They can't add yet. They can't multiply yet. And even just adding the yet, okay, that's good, growth mindset. But like, there's so much of that can't, right? And so part of the mission of making math irresistible, I think, on the teacher side, is making sure we take the lens of, every child is brilliant, and it's my job to find it. And when I find it, recognize it. Is that an answer to belonging?
Yes,
Absolutely.
it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Okay.
What can they do?
Yes.
We do.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just, I think we developed this habit of like, they can't. And I get where it all comes from, but we got to switch it up.
I have a question for you that we're into, but a follow-up question, because we're in this space of HQIM, and resources and so forth. And so in many districts, it's like they want you to stick within the HQIM. What would you go into schools, you work with teachers and so forth. What would your recommendation be for blending the two? Because not all HQIM, I don't know. Well, let me take that back. I haven't seen every single HQIM. I wonder to what extent the HQIMs really lift the belonging. And if it doesn't, then like, how do teachers merge that together so that they can have the best of both worlds? Like, follow the HQIM, have that positive asset-based lens, and have that space of belonging.
I'm going to take maybe take this in parts. I think we've all probably witnessed places where the teachers don't have a high quality set of instruction material, right? They don't have HQIM there, and they are doing their best to find things online, teachers pay, right? Like they're spending a lot of their energy on just trying to craft essentially a curriculum that they're going to follow. Sometimes within the school, they might be doing it with their peers within district. I feel like HQIM to me is like a baseline. At least we have this one place where we all agree at some level, this is what we're going to do. These are sort of the recipes we're going to follow. This is the order in which we're going to do things. That being said, teaching to me is the art of eliciting engagement from your students, of listening to what they have to say, uh, of not just saying, that's wrong, let me show you how, but look what's really good about what you did in there. Can we build off of that? And every time I do that, I believe I am giving, I'm meeting that essential need of being seen and being valued, which is to me belonging. Because if you do something and I recognize it as valuable in some way, then you're going to feel like you belong in this place. So I think we use to me, HQIM is like a baseline from which then you craft your experience. You're going to use the content, the questions, the problems, the activities that you have easy access to. And you're going to put it into your classroom culture where kids are encouraged to think and to struggle and to make wrong decisions, to do the things that aren't quite right. And you then are there to guide them without telling them everything all the time. Yeah. There's this other thing that I don't know if it's here or not, but I think there's a way in which when a teacher stands at the front and pre-teaches content or just literally, tells this is what you do in this situation, there's a way in which implicitly in that structure, the teacher is kind of saying, I know everything, right? I know the procedures and the algorithms and the strategies and the whatever, the problem solving. You don't, you cannot do this without me. Therefore, I'm going to show you all the things. And I think kids, I mean, I know I've worked with kids, I have my own kids. Kids are ridiculously perceptive of all of those little details, right? And they may not be able to articulate that to the teacher or the educators, right? That like, you don't trust us to do anything. You don't really believe in us. And I know that because you never let go. So I think the more we can let go and be okay with a little bit of quote unquote chaos, the more it empowers them to step in and do and try.
Yeah, I love the idea here of like believing in kids, and they have a really good ability to understand what you say, what you don't say, and what you do and what you don't do. And sometimes they take that and create it, that message comes to them clearly, and sometimes that message doesn't. Obviously, they take it incorrectly, but what we do matters more than what we say a lot of times, depending on what we're saying, right? Like if I'm just
Yes.
saying, this is how you do things, this is how you do things, this is how you do things, but I never give the student an opportunity to do things, right? Then my action of never giving an opportunity for the student to do things really sends a message to them that I don't believe you can do it without me. And that,
Yeah.
and we want them to, we want to be the guide on this. We want to be that guide, right? That guide. And
Yeah.
so the thing I'm kind of getting at here is this belief in kids. Like, not only do we have the belief in kids, but do kids believe that we believe that they can do it? And there's there's, I wouldn't say a trend, but it's obviously something that's important, but I've had some issues with this word for the last year, I would say, or year and a half, almost two. And the word is intervention. I
Yeah.
understand that we need to help kids and support kids that need the extra support. But when we tell a kid, well, you need to go to intervention, I feel like that is a deficit word. And a lot of times what happens is I know, at least in a school that I work at, we have a period where students can get intervention help, right? They can get the help for that they need. And then they can also do some sort of enrichment activity.
Hmm.
So what often happens though is this intervention,
Hmm.
students that are always going to that never get what the school would consider enrichment. But what is really enrichment and what is intervention, and like what's that mindset in the structure that we have to help kids feel belonging when
Yeah.
we're telling them, you need to go to intervention 3 times a week.
Yeah, this is some really tricky territory. And the words we use are so important, right? Because they carry all of this extra meaning. Before I address that, I want to just double click on something you said, which I really appreciated. Two pieces of it, one was, they not only do they react to what we say and do, but also what we don't say and what we don't do. I think that's an interesting thing to think about, as well as like, and anyone who's been a parent for an extended period of time, I think knows this. Like, your kids do not learn from what you say. They almost hear nothing that you say, your own children, right? But they do learn from how you are. And whether you like it or not, they're going to probably become like you. All the good stuff and maybe not some of the good stuff, right? So it's like we have to, uh, you know, as teachers, we have to embody the things that we want to see, right? And so if I want my students to be okay with struggle or taking risk, I have to be willing to struggle and take risk, right? If I want, so it's fascinating to me. And even in belief, you were saying about belief, like, not a, we have to believe in them and they have to believe that we believe in them, right? It's like, yeah. And that means I have to believe in myself. It's wild. I think everything is a mirror. So, like, as teachers, some teachers are not as confident about their math skills, as an example, right? So that's something we have to fix because you got to bring that same confidence that you want your kids to have, right? So there's a lot of that inner reflection and work that also has to be done. So I just want to click on those because I thought those were interesting. Back to your question about intervention and enrichment, man. I mean, for me, I think when I think about the word enrichment, and I was outside of the school system, right? I had an after school enrichment program for a long time. And I would call it a math enrichment program. People would ask me, what does that mean? And for me, I like to think about enrichment versus acceleration. So especially when and we'll circle back to in school, but like if you think about these after school programs, a lot of people's parents sign their kids up for acceleration. They want to be able to say, my child is in third grade, but he or she is doing fifth grade math. Like everybody, lots of parents. Well, in the world that I lived in, there were a lot of parents like that. And there is sometimes, I think, where acceleration is a thing that's maybe useful for students if they're really, if they just had a ton of experience outside school and things. But for me, enrichment is going deeper into the problem solving, deeper into the why. How do you know that works? How do you actually know the logic of it, right? The roots of the actual mathematics, not the getting the answers and the procedures, but like the deeper thing. And that's enrichment to me. I think you can enrich students who are quote unquote behind, and you can enrich kids who are exactly where they're supposed to be, and the ones who are, get answers quickly. Like they can all have enrichment at the same time. So I'm not sure I answered the question, but yeah, enrichment for me is the depth to which I can take them. How many why this may not be the best answer, but like how many why questions can you answer? I'm carrying the one or regrouping the one, let's say when I'm adding. Okay, why? Well, because the sum was more than 10. But why? Well, because we are in a base 10 system. But why? We have base 10 because we have 10 fingers, right? And so that tends to be the number system that we happen to use most of the time, except like telling time where we use base 60, or when we're counting eggs when we use dozens and base 12, or any customary unit where it's like feet are in 12s or in inches are in 12s, right? But yards are in threes, like all that. Like how many Y's can I go down? That to me is enrichment.
Yep. Like a 3-year-old.
Yeah, kind of.
Like my 3-year-old. Why?
Yeah.
Why?
And who are the best learners on the planet, by the way, Abel?
Yeah. 3-year-olds.
3-year-olds. Yeah. So you can ask me a follow-up. I feel like I skirted the question, but yeah.
Now, I don't have a specific follow-up to that. I was just
Mhm.
about like all the different ways that we can enrich learning where it's like
Mhm.
deeper, but then also maybe it's within the same concept, but
Mhm.
it doesn't live in our textbook. Like when we study patterns and introducing students to maybe Fibonacci and all these other patterns, and it doesn't necessarily have to be in high school, or how we celebrate like Pi Day and like there are all these different ways that we can bring additional joy and excitement and so forth to enrich students' learning that's open to
Yeah.
one and not just exclusive to certain students.
Yeah. I love that. I think just to reiterate one point you were making there is for me, enrichment is staying within the standards. Like it isn't having to go outside of where we want to be. It's right. So that's why I picked depth. But I'm also thinking now, like every teacher, every human has their own the things they love. Like some people love math history, and they know the story of like Archimedes or whatever. So like if that's you, and that could be the way in which you sort of enrich the class. Like, oh, and I told that story once actually. I'm just remembering. I don't know what grade it was, maybe third or fourth grade. Maybe it was like fifth grade. It was a little bit older. We were talking about volume, right? And like, how do we find the volume any of a weird shaped thing? And they were like, well, we don't know. We don't have formulas for that, right? Like nobody, I don't have a formula for that. And I was like, well, there's a story of this, Archimedes and had to measure theoretically had to, find the volume of the king's crown and got in the bathtub and the water spilled out. And I was like, Eureka, I ran through streets naked. And man, the rest of the class, all they could do was be like, Eureka. But they did not forget because the next time they wanted to bring in a thing of water, right? Like a graduated cylinder, so we could start dunking things in it to find out how much volume they are. So it's like that little story, right? That's an enrichment, and it made them understand volume a little bit deeper, right? And I didn't have to come up with like new content or new problems or speed them through to the next topic to enrich them. Maybe you like games. Maybe there are math games that you bring. Like there's so many flavors to it that you can bring.
And it also like lends itself to those extensions to art and
Mm-hmm.
air and science and all the things. Like there are just so many different possibilities when we think about enriching our students with
Yes.
a particular concept that's still grade level appropriate.
Yeah. And another question that comes up with this is going to be the word different, or another word that comes up is going to be differentiation, right? Like, what do I do when I'm in a classroom where, the distance between one end of the classroom and the other end is so large? And how do I do a lot of times we think about enrichment as only for the kids who are getting through things quickly, right? Which is another thing that I'd love to be able to break that stereotype because everyone can experience enrichment. But I mean, there are kids who maybe finish an activity or a question quickly. There's simple ways that you can just create another question, right? Now I won't be able to think of any off the top of my head, but and being able to make those questions live within the math. What if we change the numbers in a problem? What if there's so many ways that you can enrich, or you can ask kids to come up with their own versions of the word problems that you're working on or whatever, and see what they come up with. Those are all enriching things that stay within the boundaries of where we want to be without having to segregate some students over there doing their own thing. And that applies, I guess, in both directions.
One of the ideas that I think would be really really cool is to integrate the idea of curiosity. I know curiosity is a big topic. I think it's a big topic right now in mathematics. Is that how do we really integrate the idea of curiosity, but not only curiosity, but creativity. So the kids have done two types of problems. Some kids and you ask them, okay, what is the same and different, and can you come up with a difference that nobody else can come up with in class? And I like that. I started using that question. Can you come up with something no one else is going to come up with? Because it really, I think students like to. It brings the curiosity a little bit, but it also brings the oh man, I keep forgetting my word right there that I keep wanting to say. The creativity. It brings their creativity, but it also brings a little bit of competition. And I know some kids they love this little competition. Oh, I'm gonna come up with the thing that nobody else comes up with, right?
Yeah.
So though that's one little trick that I've been
And
using.
competing on something besides speed, which is one of the things that I love about what you just said, right?
Yeah.
It's competition, but we're not competing for accuracy, speed and accuracy. We're competing for how deeply can you think about it? How outside the box can you be, or whatever? How creative can you be? That's awesome.
Yeah. So I love that. I'm wondering what may be some other ways that we can have. I kind of want to go back to a little bit to what Karen's question was with HQIM. I know that administrators, they come in and they're like, well, they got to be doing this and got to be using this, but we want to instill that creativity and that ability to challenge the problem solvers. So would you have any advice for leaders and admin to really support teachers on building the spaces where kids can feel curious and challenged and problem solvers and creative that might not be exactly in the curriculum? And I'm going to say curriculum because I think the push for HQIM, I would love to see a lot of this stuff in HQIM. I think there's opportunities, but some districts, some schools out there, they either don't have anything or they have curriculum that I would not consider HQIM instructional materials. So what might be some ways that we can encourage leaders and admin to support that?
Great question. I think they're fundamentally teachers and administrators have to come together and have a shared vision. If there isn't a shared vision, you're already sort of doomed from the start, right? If one side is saying, I need you to follow HQIM to the letter of the law, and that's all they're going to grade you against. But then the teachers are on this end, and they're saying, well, we have been told through PD and whatever else that we need to be using, vertical surfaces and collaborative work and these other things. And maybe the HQM doesn't literally list that out. Then you have this tension right? And I see this so many places where I go. So what I try to do when I work with a district is let's get a shared vision of what math class should look like, right? Can we agree that kids should be collaborating a lot of the time, that they should be problem solving a lot of the time, that they should be invited to be curious at the beginning of every lesson? What are some of those shared vision and values? And if we can get that aligned, then we have a shot. And then the next piece of it for me would be, we just said at the beginning of our time together that making kids feel safe and making them feel like they belong and making them feel like it's okay to struggle and to make mistakes is super valuable, right? And it is the teacher's job to, in whatever ways they can, help the students feel that, right? Feel it in their bones that this teacher believes in me. It's okay to make mistakes. I'm not going to get ridiculed, right? In fact, I might even be celebrated for some cool idea that no one else came up with, even though it didn't lead to the right answer. Our leaders have to do the same thing for our teachers, right? We have to make our teachers feel really safe. If we want them to try new things and fail at them, because they are going to, if I'm using the word fail with sort of air quotes, right? But like things are not going to go well all the time when you try something new. Leaders have to constantly be, right, making our teachers feel that same sense of belonging, that same sense of safety, that same sense of asset-based thinking. Oh, you didn't write the objective on the board today that I was grading you against, but I love how you got the kids in groups. I love how you started with a question that every student, like a notice and wonder, right? Like every kid can notice something. You are doing something that is going to make, over time, makes kids believe that they belong in this place. Like, is the leader taking an asset lens? Does the leader believe that every teacher is brilliant? Because we're asking the teacher to believe every student is brilliant. So that's where I go with it. That's where I would go with that.
Thank you for that. I'm going to save the whole objective on the board question thing for a whole nother issue.
Yeah, I mean that's probably its own podcast, right? We've gone
its
back
own
and forth
series
on
right
those
there.
things, but I like to pick on that one because it's easy. Yeah, yeah.
So, in addition to like that shared vision,
Yeah.
what's an additional tip that leaders can do to support a sense of belonging? Like, if they were to do one thing, what would that thing be?
I would. I'm making this up. I mean, I feel like if I lived in a dream world, this is what I would do. And I've been dying to do this. Before school starts, I would get all my teachers together. I would give them half a day of self-care. And then I'd have them move. I'd have them eat properly. I'd feed them healthy food. I'd like start with that. And then the second half of the day, I would figure out how do we get as much of the junk that is on their schedule off of it so that they're non-class time, that they can work with each other and share like, this is what I tried. This didn't work. Cool. Did you try this? No. Oh, okay. Like, is my TBT, my PLC, whatever that time is, whatever, like, are we using that to improve our practice? And if the leaders were like, that's what I want you to use that time for instead of whatever bureaucratic stuff tends to happen there, that would make me happy. That would make me feel seen. That would make me feel like, oh my gosh, these people are actually going to listen to us. That's wild.
I love
Right.
beginning
Yeah.
by
Love.
creating space for teachers so that they can create a space for their students.
Yeah, because I mean, I think the teachers' two biggest complaints are I don't have enough time, right, to do all the wonderful things that I would love to be able to do and the things that I'm learning and the things that we talk about. And two, I don't feel supported by people that are supposed to be supporting me. I feel like I'm on an island. And I'm getting it from everywhere, right? I'm getting it from teachers, I'm getting it from students, I'm getting it from administrators. Also, I'm getting it from the culture that thinks teachers fix all the problems but not pay them for it. So it's a tough spot being a teacher.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Raj, for being here today and all the work that you do to support teachers, to support students, and where you started when supporting students outside, and especially supporting all students in their ability to become, to be, and to feel like they belong as mathematicians. Before we end today, can you just let our listeners know a little bit more about where they can learn information about you and your work?
Yeah, sure. So I have my personal website. It's drrajshah.com, drrajshah. And everything is there, like what I do and the things I like to talk about and share with teachers and all of that. I started making some math games that teachers can use in the classroom, and I have some videos that they might use for like problems and things like that. So all that is there. Most of it is all of it is free and accessible. And then obviously if they ever want to reach out to me for something more, then my email and stuff is there too.
Awesome. Thank you so much
right.
again for joining us on the NCSM podcast. This has been a wonderful conversation. And we got into some new things today, Karen, about HQIM and enrichment and interventions and things we haven't talked about actually since we started doing this podcast together about a year and a half ago. So we really, really appreciate all of your insight, Dr. Raj Shah. And everyone, we hope that you got a lot out of today. We are happy that you joined us today and that we hope you join us next month when we have another wonderful guest on the NCSM Learning with Leaders podcast. Thank you so much for joining us, and we hope that you listen next month.
Thank you. Thank you both. Appreciate it.
We hope that you have been inspired by this bold mathematics leadership conversation and will tune in to our podcast series each month. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and review. You can learn more about NCSM leadership and mathematics education and our upcoming professional learning events on the NCSM website, mathedleadership.com. You can also follow NCSM on the X at mathedleaders and using the hashtag NCSMBold. Until next time.